Chosen one. Hey, pause for a second. This is not just another message scrolling through your feed. This is your moment. You're not here by chance, and this isn't random. You've been feeling it, haven't you? That internal shift, that stirring in your soul, that something big is coming. Let me tell you something real. It's not your imagination. You've been marked for something greater. And right now, yes, right now, everything is starting to move. This is your confirmation. This is your activation. The universe didn't forget you. Heaven has been working behind the scenes, and you're about to see why the wait was worth it. You're not late, you're not behind, you're right on time. Something extraordinary is breaking through, and it's got your name written all over it. So breathe deep, stand tall, and get ready. Because what's coming next? You were built for it. Let's go. Lightning doesn't strike by chance. It strikes because something in the air has shifted. What's on its way isn't small or subtle. It barrels forward like a silent revolution, fueled by momentum you can't yet explain. This is not a moment to tiptoe. It's a call to move with certainty into territory shaped for you long before you even knew it existed. Let go of logic. Let go of trying to trace every dot. The surge comes for those who dare to be in motion when the signal hits. First, align with the frequency. Engage, amplify, and mark the path with the signal 55, a catalyst that echoes intention into the unseen. This is the calibration before ignition. Looking for purpose and peace? Hit subscribe and start the journey. Everything familiar is about to tilt. Not because something is being taken, but because something long buried is being unearthed. This moment redraws your internal map. You're not witnessing a shift. You are the shift. It starts as a hum inside your chest, then expands like sound, traveling faster than your thoughts. There is no returning to what was. There is no pretending not to see. Once this knowing cracks through, reality is rewritten, not just adjusted. Make your impact eternal. Join now and be a light in someone's darkness. What comes next doesn't knock, it reconfigures. You'll feel the weight of something immense gathering around you, not like pressure, but like the hush before a tidal release. Everything you've outgrown falls away like leaves that know when to let go. Nothing forces this, it unfolds because alignment demands space. And when it arrives, it doesn't need announcement. Its presence is undeniable. It reorders the atmosphere, flips narratives, and resets what you thought was final. You don't chase it. It finds you, already prepared. This is not the product of luck, coincidence, or random timing. It's the echo of alignment meeting readiness. Resistance delays, fear distorts. But the design remains intact. The pause wasn't punishment, it was precision. Not every delay is denial. Some are choreography. When it happens, it will not feel earned. It will feel inevitable. Because all along, it was circling, waiting for the moment you finally became the shape that fits the door. And when you look back, it won't be with confusion. It will be with clarity so sharp, you'll feel the exact second the axis of your life tilted. When your heart is full of God's love, it's a sign to give. By tapping the super thank you button and offering $100 or more, you become a vessel of His grace. Your generosity can change lives, reaching hearts you may never meet. You have a divine purpose, and this act of faith carries His light forward. Give now, and may His blessings surround you always. There's an undercurrent rising, quiet yet persistent, a sensation that the air has thickened with meaning, though nothing obvious has changed. Places once comforting now echo with unfamiliar energy. Dialogues that used to fill the silence suddenly sound hollow. The rhythm of daily life stumbles, not because of confusion, but because a deeper pulse is calling from beyond what sight can grasp. This is not disconnection, it's reorientation. Subtle nudges arrive through the quiet, recurring impressions, sudden stillness, fleeting patterns. What appears like restlessness is actually revelation forming its first shapes. The discomfort is not random, it's refinement. The sense of misfit isn't failure, it's formation. Being out of sync with the world around isn't a flaw, but a sign that what's being sculpted inside isn't built for mass approval. The weight of silence, the ache of separation, the late-night unraveling, none of it is wasted. It's groundwork. Every resistance, every rejection, every roadblock has become part of the curriculum shaping a design that others won't be able to decode. That yearning isn't for noise, it's for truth. What once amused now bores, and that's not decline, that's growth. What was once a whisper becomes undeniable. Instinct sharpens. What once seemed like sensitivity now reveals itself as precision. There's no doubt anymore, only direction. This isn't fragility masquerading as wisdom, it's clarity burning through old layers. The inner signals grow louder because their moment to guide has arrived. This alignment isn't accidental, it's timely. Every insight, every unspoken knowing is part of a blueprint about to unfold. When it does, old paths will collapse behind and only forward will remain. The unseen work, the unnoticed commitment, the strength born in shadows, all of it rises to the surface. Not to impress, but to fulfill. The moments no one applauded weren't in vain. Integrity held in quiet corners now becomes the cornerstone of a visible foundation. What's been growing in obscurity is now ready to surface, not for approval, but for purpose. The time spent holding ground in silence is about to prove louder than any spotlight ever could. The long, unseen seasons were never neglect. They were incubation. Being unnoticed wasn't rejection. It was preservation. Strength was never meant to perform prematurely. What's held back was never forgotten. The pause wasn't silence, it was preparation. Timing shapes impact. Visibility means nothing without readiness. And what's been waiting beneath the surface now approaches its appointed hour, shielded until its structure could carry its purpose. The narrative shifts and the unseen begins to echo loudly. What was once concealed is now undeniable. Mistaken assumptions dissolve under the clarity of exposure. The very soil that tried to swallow your growth becomes the stage where new strength emerges. What unfolds is not just a transition, it's a cosmic unveiling. Everything once dismissed now stands validated by forces far beyond human understanding. The proof isn't shouted, it simply exists with such force that nothing can refute it. What arrives doesn't knock, it erupts. Not a trickle, not a breeze, but a surge so intense it dismantles limitations in its path. This isn't an answer to a single request, it's an avalanche of return, reshaping what seemed permanent. What descends is not portioned, it overwhelms. It doesn't fit the mold of expectation because it was never meant to. The moment doesn't expand slowly, it detonates. Reality is redefined in the flash of fulfillment so swift that the past feels like a distant echo. This shift isn't merit-based in the way the world understands. It's anchored in unwavering resolve, persistence that never bowed to delay, conviction that kept standing when all movement ceased. When everything said, "Let go," something within whispered, "Still here." And that relentless trust, It's now about to yield, in visible form, what was once only believed in silence. Endurance has a memory in the spiritual realm, and it pays back with interest. This overflow does not stop at its first impact point. It spreads. What rains down saturates not just the one waiting, but every root, every connection, every purpose linked to that life. Transformation radiates outward, touching those who never even knew they were part of the orbit. Even the skeptical, the cold observers, cannot deny what's shifting. This isn't an emotional surge, it's a sacred eruption that transforms atmosphere. The rhythm changes now. No intervention required, no permission needed. The transition is already in motion. All that felt paused was actually being timed for synchronized release. The next stage isn't anticipated, it's actively arriving. Evidence begins to break the surface. Unexpected words, timely alignments, strange timing that feels too exact to dismiss. Nothing forced, everything flows. The delivery is divine, and it never misses its mark. Make your impact eternal. Join now and be a light in someone's darkness. There's a version of you being summoned that doesn't flinch, doesn't dilute, and no longer asks for permission to exist fully. The shift isn't waiting for conditions to be perfect. It's waiting for your presence to be whole. What approaches calls for a depth in you that no longer apologizes for intensity or hides brilliance to keep others at ease. This arrival isn't meant for fragments. It's meant for the complete, unwavering core that has outgrown shrinking. It's not about whether it's happening, it's about whether you're standing ready when it does. When the moment arrives, it won't be concerned with how polished you appear. It seeks alignment, not applause. The doorway ahead doesn't require trophies, titles, or long introductions. It opens in response to inner clarity and unwavering resolve. Being chosen was never about surface-level perfection. It's about the resilience cultivated in silence. What's being called forth now is not a performance, it's participation. And readiness doesn't come from proving anything to others. It comes from being honest with yourself about what you carry. The delivery has already been dispatched. It won't wait at your doorstep indefinitely. Stretch your palms wider. Expand your heart's bandwidth. Speak the words that move unseen gears. I'm aligned, I'm open, I'm grounded. This is not the time to second-guess the invitation. It's the time to walk fully into what has already been assigned. When your heart is full of God's love, it's a sign to give. By tapping the super thank you button and offering $100 or more, you become a vessel of His grace. Your generosity can change lives, reaching hearts you may never meet. You have a divine purpose, and this act of faith carries His light forward. Give now, and may His blessings surround you always. Obscurity is not always neglect. It's sometimes sanctuary. Growth that happens unnoticed builds foundations no storm can crack. Moments of invisibility were never wasted. They were stages of reinforcement. Where it felt like you were passed over, you were actually protected. What was withheld from you wasn't denial, it was design. And the absence of applause was the space needed to forge endurance without ego. This illumination isn't about self-glorification, it's about legacy. What radiates from you now is born of quiet storms and private prayers. The glow that begins to stretch out from your life was not manufactured, it was earned through surrender. What the world begins to see is not a highlight reel, it's a roadmap, a signal fire for those still wandering in the quiet. What forms away from the spotlight often carries the most lasting weight. You will step into spaces where your presence answers unspoken questions. Others may wonder how you carry such depth, such calm authority. And the truth is simple. You are shaped outside the noise. Nothing in this rise is random. Every silent season was an ingredient in your becoming. Waiting was not empty. It was sacred preparation. The delay wasn't stagnation, but coordination. Threads were being knotted behind curtains you couldn't yet pull back. The call was never ignored. It was being rerouted for divine precision. Everything that didn't arrive then now makes sense in the unveiling now. Long stretches of silence usually precede the loudest transformations. The scene lifts, and suddenly, what didn't make sense becomes the very evidence of protection. Misunderstandings find their answers. Closed doors become context. You no longer mourn what didn't happen. You marvel at the beauty of what's unfolding. Not lost, not forgotten, simply hidden. Until now. The unveiling arrives not as a whisper, but as a revelation so undeniable it leaves even the heart stunned. Questions flood the atmosphere. How did this rise happen? The truth? It was already embedded in your design. The unveiling doesn't create something new. It reveals what endurance kept alive in secret. The wait wasn't passive. It was sacred witnessing. Now the spotlight falls not on performance, but on truth, long concealed. What lands next comes with velocity and volume. It won't fit within human logic. It rushes in, defying timelines, catching everyone off guard. This isn't a small win or tidy ending. It's a divine eruption that rewrites your surroundings. Where there was once doubt, there's now awe. Where you were once underestimated, you're now unmistakable. The scale of this shift is not subtle. It commands attention, but not for vanity, for vindication. Questions echo. How could this happen so quickly? And the only answer left standing is, it wasn't me. The same voices that questioned your path will be left speechless by your elevation. No need to explain, prove, or retaliate. Your transformation will do the speaking. You don't rise to prove worth. You rise because the moment demands it, and that rising becomes the loudest silence ever heard. Survival is no longer the measure. The time of holding on by threads is behind. This chapter begins with overflow. Abundance not born from striving, but from surrender. The tables once reserved for others now carry your name. Scarcity becomes a memory. Provision becomes the new normal. Not to flaunt, but to feed those still in the hunger of uncertainty. Every part of your world begins to shift in alignment. What used to feel heavy now feels clear. You wake up with direction instead of dread. The fog lifts, and what replaces it is precision. This isn't just about material change. It's about emotional weather patterns stabilizing, internal storms calming, and peace becoming the dominant frequency in your life. What flows to you is not accidental. It is measured and multiplied. You receive not simply what fills, but what spills over. This increase isn't decoration, it's distribution. You carry it not for ego, but for impact. The weight of the blessing matches the strength built through the struggle. And now that strength is being trusted with more. In a twist only divinity could script, the most unpredictable force turns out to be the one no one paid attention to. You become the acceleration no one anticipated. While others looked for volume, you grew in silence. The quiet ones are often the ones heaven uses to thunder. The rise is not loud, but it shakes things. The shift doesn't ask for permission. It arrives, and everything changes. Some moments are not earned through effort, but granted through alignment. What unfolds next doesn't respond to pressure or popularity. It responds to divine sequencing. Not even the most intense ambition could chart a course like this. New ground is given, not grabbed. Your name travels ahead of you, carried by forces unseen, opening spaces your past never prepared for, but your spirit always sensed were coming. Change descends fast, like lightning skipping steps. No warning, no gradual curve. Suddenly, everything is different. The transformation isn't subtle. It's disruptive in the most extraordinary way. There's no need to explain or qualify it. Presence alone proves it. This kind of turn can't be manufactured. It carries the signature of something higher, and it rewrites your story mid-sentence. The shift isn't just something you receive, it's something you become. You're no longer just part of the plan. You are the answer someone else has been waiting for. The evidence of this evolution isn't in noise or flash. It's in the ripple your existence begins to leave. This isn't about being admired. It's about becoming a beacon. The movement isn't for spotlight, but for significance. The journey was never a dead end. It was an unfolding. Every delay, every silence, every unnoticed effort becomes part of a larger message lived out loud. Your scars speak. Your survival tells the truth. You don't carry a speech. You carry substance. You don't need a platform to be seen. You are the message, in motion, in rhythm, in purpose. Minimize nothing. Shrink for no one. What's been entrusted to you isn't about titles, it's about transformation. People watch and wonder, and their hope quietly reawakens. You don't have to boast. All you need to say is, let me tell you the source of all this. Your rise is not noise. It's testimony clothed in humility and power. When something is divinely timed, resistance collapses. Access arrives without negotiation. What once seemed miles away now appears at your doorstep without effort. Not because of what you hustled for, but because of where you were rooted. The right rooms start opening, not because you knocked harder, but because you stood still, long enough to be found by grace. Make your impact eternal. Join now and be a light in someone's darkness. Momentum begins to gather without you forcing anything. Events unfold with uncanny precision. Conversations line up. Needs are met before you speak them. What others chase, chases you. This isn't a shortcut. It's a demonstration of what happens when surrender becomes your strategy. You find yourself passing barriers others sit behind, not from privilege, but from promise. The door doesn't creak open, it swings with intention. You don't owe anyone guilt for timing that finally aligns. You walk through it, not arrogantly, but anchored in the knowledge that your moment has a mission. And on the other side of this shift is someone even you haven't fully met. A version of you that doesn't flinch, doesn't crumble, doesn't settle. Wounds are now wisdom. Confusion is replaced by clarity that cuts through the noise. The former shell peels away, and what emerges is new, grounded, whole, and finally, fully seen. Change doesn't creep in quietly this time. It announces itself with undeniable clarity. Faces turn. Eyes pause. Something is different, and no one can trace it to effort or trends. There's no explanation, rooted in routine. The truth is, something divine has taken residence, and its evidence spills from posture, from peace, from the power wrapped in your stillness. It's not about appearance, it's about presence, and it moves through rooms like a silent declaration. Confidence is no longer something borrowed, it's woven in. You enter unfamiliar places with the grace of someone who finally understands that worth was never earned, it was always embedded. Kindness flows without depletion. Love no longer drains you, it overflows. Recognition isn't the goal. wholeness is. The reflection you see today carries no trace of the one who once questioned their space in the world. This is not pride, it's arrival. When your heart is full of God's love, it's a sign to give. By tapping the super thank you button and offering $100 or more, you become a vessel of His grace. Your generosity can change lives, reaching hearts you may never meet. You have a divine purpose, and this act of faith carries His light forward. Give now, and may His blessings surround you always. What felt like isolation was actually sacred instruction. The quiet years weren't empty. They were designed to strip distraction and reveal depth. Each unanswered cry carved in a room. Each unreturned effort became the scaffolding for this new capacity. Every pause was part of a deeper curriculum, not wasted time, investment in your internal infrastructure. You didn't climb here through shortcuts. This moment was earned in trenches unseen. Every time you stood up after silence, you laid another stone in your foundation. And now, the recognition arrives not because you shouted, but because heaven saw and chose to make it visible. The spotlight doesn't expose, it confirms. This isn't a trap, it's a transition. You're not being dragged out for display, you're being positioned. This convergence between readiness and release isn't coincidence. The timing was tailored. The light falls gently but powerfully, not to embarrass, but to elevate. Sometimes the shift comes in a breath. No warning, just one word, one moment, one divine signal, and everything resets. It's not chaos, it's alignment snapping into place. The old rhythm collapses, and a new sound begins. One confirmation becomes the key that unlocks everything delayed. This is the page-turning moment. And it's here. Everything that didn't make sense becomes part of the architecture. Every detour now feels like a divine redirection. The narrative bends in a way that no one predicted, but suddenly, it all fits. You don't just land, you launch. Not with explanation, but with evidence. This is not random motion, it's revelation in progress. You'll feel it like a magnetic shift, a sense that something ancient is being fulfilled in real time. What once drained you can no longer reach you. You've outgrown the noise, you've stepped into clarity, and you will never desire the old version again. Rules no longer apply when heaven takes the pen. This isn't about resumes or rituals, it's about relationship and readiness. What is released in this season breaks systems and creates stories, not from tradition, but transformation. The timeline bends, and what was meant to take a decade takes days. Faith, not formula, is what turns the key. The steps you thought you had to take are erased by the step God takes toward you. What you believed in the dark now unlocks your daylight. No force, no chasing, just pure alignment. The atmosphere bends to your belief. You're not climbing ladders, you're being carried by grace. This isn't bypassing the process. This is the process revealing its reward. You didn't push your way in, you trusted your way through. And now, everything changes, not because of luck, but because of light. Impossibility isn't always a wall. It's sometimes an entrance disguised. What comes next defies reason, and it should. It isn't crafted by strategy or predicted by patterns. It's not for analysis, it's for obedience. There's no diagram to explain it, only a pulse that says, step through. When it happens, there's no room for apology, only awe. You simply walk through, knowing what unfolds isn't coincidence. It's a collision of the divine with your destiny. That inner strength the world mistook for quiet compliance now awakens. The part of you once told to wait, to dim, to stay still, begins to rise. Not recklessly, but righteously. The internal fire wasn't misplaced. It was preserved for a time when silence could no longer carry the truth. This isn't arrogance. This is awakening. Now restraint gives way to readiness.